أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. Inshallah, we're going to pick up on the legendary stories of the prophets Alayhi'Ssalam. This is your humble orator Muhammad Israel. And this is in reference to where the Prophet ﷺ began to take oath of allegiance to the delegations from Yathrib. Now the next year, the 13th of the mission, Mus'ab returned from Yathrib accompanied by 23 men and 2 women of that city, who had adopted al-Islam besides others who were as yet unbelievers. On their arrival, these Yathribites immediately sent to the Prophet ﷺ and invited him to their city. The Prophet ﷺ was now in great need of such assistance, for his opponents had by this time grown so powerful in Mecca that he could not stay there much longer without imminent danger. He therefore accepted their proposal and met them one night by the appointment at Al-Aqaba, attended by his uncle Al-Abbas, who, though he was not then a convert, wished his nephew well. Al-Abbas made a speech to those Yathribites wherein he told them that as the Prophet ﷺ was obliged to quit his native city and seek shelter elsewhere, and they had offered him their protection, they would do well not to deceive him, and that if they were not firmly resolved to defend and not to betray him, they had better declare their minds and let him provide for his safety in some other manner. Upon their profession, their sincerity, the Prophet ﷺ swore to be faithful to them on condition that they should worship none but Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, and to hold on to the prospects of Al-Islam, to observe the prospects of Al-Islam, obey the Prophet in all that was righteous, and protect him against all insults as heartily as they would their wives and families, as heartily. They then asked him what would be their return if they should happen to be killed in the cause of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, and he ﷺ answered, paradise, that's what you'll get in return. Whereupon they pledged their faith to him and his cause. The Prophet ﷺ then selected 12 men out of their number to act as his delegates. Thus was concluded the second covenant of Al-Aqaba. The Yathribites returned home, leaving the Prophet ﷺ to arrange for the journey to their city. The Prophet ﷺ directed his followers to seek immediate safety at Al-Yathrib, which they accordingly did. About 100 families silently disappeared from Mecca and proceeded to Yathrib, where they were received with enthusiasm and much hospitality. Finally, all the disciples had gone to Yathrib. The Prophet ﷺ alone remained at Mecca, keeping with him only his young cousin Ali and his devoted friend Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu. The Meccans, fearing the consequence of this new alliance, began to think seriously of preventing Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam from escaping to Yathrib. They met in all haste. After several minor expedients had been rejected, they decided that he should be killed. They agreed that one man should be chosen out of every tribe, and that each man should strike a blow at him with his sword, so that responsibility of the guilt would rest equally on all tribes. The Banu Hashim, Muhammad ﷺ's own tribe, were much inferior and therefore would not be able to revenge their kinsman's death. A number of noble youth were selected for the bodily deed. As the night advanced, the assassins posted themselves round the Prophet's dwelling. They watched all night long, waiting to murder him, ﷺ, when he should leave his house at the early dawn. By some means, the Prophet ﷺ had been warned of the danger, and he directed Ali radiallahu anhu to lie in his place and wrap himself up in his green cloak, which he did. The Prophet ﷺ escaped through means that only Jalla Jalaluhu knows, and he repaired the house and made it to the house of Abu Bakr unperceived by the conspirators who had already assembled at the Prophet ﷺ's door. These, in the meantime, looking through a crevice and seeing Ali, or they looking through a crevice, and they saw Ali radiallahu anhu, whom they mistook for Muhammad ﷺ himself, asleep. Continued watching there until morning, when Ali arose. They found themselves deceived. The fury of the Quraysh was now unbounded. The news that the would-be assassins had returned unsuccessful and that Muhammad ﷺ had escaped aroused their whole energy. A price of 100 camels was set upon his head, ﷺ. Narrated Aisha bint Abi Bakr, his wife, I never remembered my parents believing in any religion other than the true religion, and I don't remember a single day passing without our being visited by Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the morning and in the evening. When the Muslims were put to test in the trouble by the pagans, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu set out migrating to the land of Abyssinia. And when he reached Barq al-Gimadi ibn Adgham, the chief of the tribe of Qara, met him and said, "O Abu Bakr, where are you going?" And he replied, "My people have turned me out of my country, so I wanted to wander on the earth and worship my Lord." Ibn Ad-Daqiba said, "O Abu Bakr, a man like you should not leave his homeland, nor should be driven out, because you help the destitute earn their living, and you keep good relations with your kids and your kin. He help the weak and poor, entertain guests generously." Entertaining the guests generously. The precepts of Al-Islam obey the Prophet in all that was right and protect him against all insults, and heartily as they would their wives and families. They then, actually on Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, who used to help calamity-stricken people, who used to help them. "Therefore I am your protector," he said. "Go back and worship your Lord in your own town." So Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu returned there, and Ibn ad-Daghina accompanied him. In the evening, Ibn ad-Daghina visited the nobles of the Quraysh and said to them, "A man like Abu Bakr as-Siddiq should not leave his homeland, nor should he be driven out. Do you drive out a man who helps the destitute, earns their living, keeps good relations with his kin and kith, helps the weak and poor, entertains guests generously, and helps the calamity-stricken person." So the people of the Quraysh could not refuse Ibn ad-Daghina's protection, and they said to Ibn ad-Daghina, "Let Abu Bakr as-Siddiq worship his Lord in his house. He can pray and recite there whatever he likes, but he should not hurt us with it and should not do it publicly, because we are afraid that he may affect our women and children." Ibn ad-Daghina taught Abu Bakr as-Siddiq all of that. Abu Bakr stayed in that state, worshipping his Lord in his house. He did not pray publicly, nor did he recite the Quran outside his house. Then a thought occurred to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu to build a mosque in front of his house, and there he used to pray and recite the Quran. The women and children of the pagans began to gather around him in great numbers. They used to wonder at him and look at him. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu was a man who used to weep too much, and he could not help weeping on reciting the Quran. That situation scared the nobles of the pagans of Quraysh, so they sent for Ibn ad-Daghama. When he came to them, they said, "We accepted your protection of Abu Bakr on condition that he should worship his Lord in his house, but he has violated the conditions, and he has built a mosque in front of his house where he prays and recites the Quran publicly. We are now afraid that he may affect our women and children unfavorably. So prevent him from that. If he likes to confine the worship of his Lord to his house, he may do so. But if he insists on doing that openly, ask him to release you from your obligation to protect him. For we dislike to break our pact with you, but we deny Abu Bakr as-Siddiq the right to announce his action publicly." Ibn ad-Daghama went to Abu Bakr and said, "Abu Bakr, you know well what contract I have made on your behalf. Now you are either to abide by it or else release me from the obligation of protecting you, because I do not want the Arabs here that my people have dishonored a contract I have made on behalf of another man." Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu said, "I release you from your pact to protect me, and I am pleased with the protection from Allah Jalla Jalaluhu." Aisha radiallahu anha, the mother of believers, narrated, or her narrative continues, "At that time the Prophet was in Mecca, and he said sallallahu alayhi wasallam to the Muslimin in a dream, I have been shown your migration place, a land of date palm trees between two mountains with two stony tracks. So some people migrated to Al-Madinah, and most of those people who had previously migrated to the land of Ethiopia returned or left for Medina. But Allah Jalla Jalaluhu's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Allah Jalla Jalaluhu's Messenger said to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, wait for a while, because I hope that I would be allowed to migrate also. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu replied, "Do you indeed expect this? Let my father be sacrificed for you, O Rasulullah." Prophet ﷺ said, yes. So Abu Bakr as-Siddiq did not migrate for the sake of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu's Messenger in order to accompany him. He fed 2 she-camels he possessed with the leaves of as-Samur tree that fell on being struck by a stick for 4 months. Excuse me. One day, while we were sitting in Abu Bakr's house at noon, someone said to Abu Bakr, "This is Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam with his head covered, coming at a time at which he never used to visit us before." Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu said, "May my parents be sacrificed for him. By Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, he has not come at this hour except for a great necessity." So the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam came and asked permission to enter, and he was allowed to enter. When he entered, he said to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, "Tell everyone who is present with you to go away." Abu Bakr Siddiq replied, "They are all none but your family. My mother and my father be sacrificed for you, O Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam." And so the Prophet Alayhi'Ssalam said, "I have been given permission to migrate." Abu Bakr Siddiq said, "Should I accompany you? May my mother and father be sacrificed for you, O Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam." He then Alayhi'Ssalam said, "Yes, O Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu." He said to him, "Yes." And so Abu Bakr Siddiq replied, "May my mother and father be sacrificed for you. Take one of these 2 she-camels of mine." Allah's Messenger replied, "I will accept it with payment." So we prepared the baggage quickly and put some journey food in a leather bag for them. Asma, Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu's other daughter, cut a piece from her waist belt and tied the mouth of the leather bag with it, and for that reason she was named Dhatun Nitaqiyain, meaning the owner of the 2 belts. Then the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam And Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu went for a cave on the mountain of Thawr and stayed there for 3 nights. Abdullah ibn Abi Bakr, who was an intelligent and sagacious youth, used to stay with them overnight. He used to leave them before daybreak so that in the morning he would be with the Quraysh as if he had spent the night in Mecca. He would keep in mind any plot made against them, and when it became dark, he would go on and inform them of it. Amr ibn Fuhayra, the freed slave of Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, used to bring the milch sheep of his master to them a little while after nightfall in order to rest the sheep there, so they always had fresh milk at night. The milk of the sheep and the milk which they warmed by throwing heated stones in it. Amir ibn Fuhayra would then call the herd away when it was still dark before daybreak. He did the same in each of those 3 nights. Allah's Messenger and Abu Bakr Siddiq had hired a man from the tribe of Bani Ada'il from the family of Bani Ibn Abdi as an expert guide, and he was in alliance with the family of As ibn Wali as-Sahmi, and he was in the religion of the infidels of the Quraysh. The Prophet and Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu trusted him and gave him their 2 she-camels and took his promise to bring their 2 she-camels to the cave of the Mount of Thawr in the morning after 3 nights later. And when they set out, Amr ibn Fuhayra and the guide went along with them, and the guide led them along the seashore. Inshallah, we will stop this one here at page number 399. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك وتبارك اسم ربك تعالى جدك ولا إله غيرك ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.